There we go. All right, my name is Dr. Sharnael Wolverton-Sehon. I am with Swiftfire.org True TV. And today we have a very special guest, a return guest, Robert David Steele. And we're going to get the latest and greatest updates from Mr. Robert David Steele here. I was out last week on vacation, so we didn't get to touch base. I'd love to hear any new updates that you have.
Well, I think it's more important for people to go to the website because it's just too complicated to explain. But I am maintaining a running post of links that certify that President Trump has won and will be confirmed, and people will go to jail. And the tiny URL for this running post, which has about 10 new update links every morning, is tinyurl.com/PBI-Trump-wins. I'm in conversation with Sidney Powell. I'm in conversation with some other people I cannot name. And it is absolutely 1000% certain that the president has put down a sting. The sting has worked and it's game over.
She's kind of a badass a little bit. Wouldn't you think?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I said she's kind of a badass a little bit. Wouldn't you say?
Sidney Powell is a pit bull with pearls. And I admire her very much. In fact, I introduced her to Cynthia McKinney. These two women are the two kind of goddesses in my political life. And between the two of them, I'm still trying to get President Trump to communicate with Cynthia McKinney because she has done an interview with me in which she says on the air, President Trump won big, won black, and won Georgia. Wow. And if the president were to mobilize Cynthia McKinney, there's no question but that he would win both Senate seats in Georgia.
Awesome. Yeah, I think people are getting a little restless. There are a lot of constant text, emails, video. I mean, mass amounts of information sent to me on a regular, just like not even compared to you. I'm sure you get 10 million times more than I do. But mostly people are just looking for hope and nervous. And, you know, I know with the march that just went on, there was a lot of things that went down with censoring again. A certain platform removed the event.
It's horrible. I mean, they didn't even show pictures of the event. Well, one of the things that Sidney and I have discussed by email is the fact that the leadership, editors, and authors of the Associated Press and the New York Times and others are criminally culpable for being in a RICO conspiracy to steal the election. They are criminally culpable. And Sidney has said on Lou Dobbs and several other channels that she is going after the mainstream media and Silicon Valley. This is not a person to trifle with. And they should be very concerned about the possibility that she could be named as director of the FBI before Christmas.
I was actually wondering about that myself.
She has not spoken. Let me make clear, she has not spoken to me about this. I have not spoken to her about it, but I've seen numerous references. And I personally think that Sidney Powell should be director of the FBI or attorney general first, and then a Supreme Court justice.
Well, as you know, they're doing big tech meetings again today with the Senate. And I wanted to read you this quote because I thought it was like ridiculous. But Mr. Mark said that we strengthen our enforcement mechanisms against any malicious conspiracy network like Q, for the very reason of not wanting to give them consent for platforms that would organize violence or civil unrest. And yet,
Mark Zuckerberg is a worthless sack of shit. You know, one of the things that's really important for people to appreciate is that Q has held the fire discipline of the white nationalists. We are not out there shooting people because we have faith in the plan and faith in the people that made the plan, and we are showing discipline. That is a sharp contrast to the pieces of crap from Antifa and Black Lives Matter that are funded by the globalists. So yeah. I have total confidence here that eventually Mark Zuckerberg will be looking at some kind of multi-billion-dollar criminal penalty.
Well,
he's committed defamation. He's violated the First Amendment, the Communications Decency Act, Title VII anti-discrimination, and tortuous interference. And when you can show that tortuous interference has been done by conspiracy, then you've got triple damages. Zuckerberg is also cyber stalking QAnon people, which is a federal crime. Now, I sent, and in fact, I posted it at phi-beta-iota.net. I've posted the bulk of an email that I sent to Sidney Powell outlining a strategy for taking down hashtag Google Gestapo or FANG or Big Tech. And if people go to phi-beta-iota.net and they just search for hashtag Google Gestapo, they'll get right to the top 2 or 3 things. The bottom line here is that what's going on is that the trick that the globalists have always used to repress and censor people, which used to be called anti-Semitism. We would be accused of being anti-Semitic when in fact we were being critical of bankers who were stealing our money. They then migrated that into hate speech. And then the wealthy bankers and stock owners forced the various silicone companies, including Microsoft, to change their terms of reference so that if you use hate speech, they can deplatform you, okay? Now, I was just deplatformed by Automatic, which took away my jetpack because they said I had a photo on my website that was forbidden. It was a third-party photo of an alleged dead person that someone else had posted. Now, Automatic is important because it also sponsors WordPress, but I'm assured that I will not get blocked by WordPress because it's open source and I have other options. But the bottom line here is all of this stuff that's being put into the terms of reference, hate speech and stuff, this is the equivalent of a car manufacturer selling you a car and saying, I reserve the right to turn off the brakes if you say something I don't like.
I agree. And it's classic brainwashing techniques to withhold truth, but only bombard you with whatever the aberration.
But it's also cost hundreds of millions of dollars. And I am hoping that Sydney is going to lead a massive class action lawsuit. But more importantly, I'm hoping that if Sydney goes in the government, she will lead a RICO lawsuit with teeth, because this is a conspiracy. This is torturous interference in destroying the livelihood of many, many people. I mean, X-22, for example, destroyed by YouTube, Sargent Report. So many people have lost their entire life's work. That requires compensation.
Yeah, Laura Eisenhower's deplatformed, David Rodriguez. Of course, they got right back on within a week. I mean, Laura within hours, David, I think within a week. But it's pretty crazy, and it's a narcissistic type MO to project onto others what you yourself are doing. If I go into the search right here for Facebook and I just put in Antifa or anything like that, I just for one few glances, hundreds of groups. And if you go in those groups and look and see what's going on, I promise you it's not peaceful protest. It's not love and whatever. It's all about meeting up and setting up these terrible things. And
well, I think what the president is doing is allowing a WrestleMania drama to play out. People didn't get it. I mean, I wrote the first article on how the deep state censors people. I wrote this in 2017, and it's at tinyurl.com/Google Gestapo. I was censored in 6 different ways, including over 400 trolls who we've documented their identity. Over 400 trolls attacking everyone who was funding me, attacking everyone who was interviewing me, and also reporting all of my websites as being pornographic. Okay. And the security companies are lazy. They basically will mark you pornographic, and then you have to take legal threatening action to get yourself cleared, because obviously there is no porn on anything that I do. So there's a method to all of this madness, and the new anti-Semitic war room is in fact a deep state censorship war room. And I'd like to point out to people that the Anti-Defamation League not only canceled my $77,000 meetup, which had a professional network. I was paying $77,000 for 435 professionally managed meetups, 1 in each congressional district. The ADL forced meetup to cancel me at the same time that they waived fees for 1,087 #resist seditionist anti-Trump meetups. Okay. So Meetup has been hijacked by the Anti-Defamation League. And the same is true of Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and Reddit. Now, the good news is, I think the tide has turned, and I believe that there will be some form of open source agency in Trump Studio and Truth Channel. And I am working with some people on Web 3.0 and a federated universe, which eliminates the cloud, by the way, because the cloud is where Amazon steals shit. The cloud is where all of your data is available. We're now finding that Google is stealing all of your data at your expense because you're paying for the bandwidth. Okay, so it's a very exciting time. It's a very exciting time. And I think President Trump is basically allowing this to play out until Thanksgiving. We will begin the healing in Thanksgiving. We'll have a couple of really big booms in December. I'm expecting a whole bunch of people to resign from Congress after President Trump is confirmed as reelected. That will give him a chance to reshape Congress. And then it's my hope that he will ask Dr. Cynthia McKinney to lead the legislative effort to pass #Unrig Election Reform Act, so that in 2022, we have a Congress with Greens and Libertarians and Constitution Party and Independents, and neither one of the chambers can be dominated by one party.
Well, what do you think about the houses and Nancy Pelosi and all that situation? Or do you have anything?
She is so totally screwed. It's unbelievable. And let me make a point to you. Nancy Pelosi will probably never go to jail. My best guess is she's wearing an ankle bracelet and reading from a script. I think the president is going to flip multiple seats in California and take back the House. And I believe that Pelosi is going to go quietly into the night, because I'll tell you what I think the president has in his hip pocket. I think the president has at least 100 tape recordings of Nancy Pelosi committing felonious crimes over the telephone. And all the president has to do to destroy Pelosi is declassify 3 of those.
Wow.
And the same thing for Chuck Schumer and anyone else you care to name. These people aren't afraid of jail. They're afraid of being exposed.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. And I appreciate all your updates. I know people are just restless. You know, they're wanting things very, very quickly. What do you say to the people in this kind of transitional thing? I mean, I've gotten several things about, oh, he's just golfing, but I've read the book, The Art of War. And part of that talks about how make them think that you're over here, but you're really over here. And
oh, absolutely right. I mean, and although I have no real direct access, what I'm seeing is a whole bunch of head fakes, to include the absolute lie. Sidney Powell has assured me that it's an absolute lie, that Jared Kushner and Melania Trump have encouraged the president to concede. The president is not going to concede. Not only did he win, and the people need to understand this, elections have been stolen for the last 200 years. But this is the first election. Right after he was elected, Trump did an executive order which mandated that every ballot must be watermarked and that every state must put into place measures for an audit, not just a recount. This is the first American election in history where it really has been the most secure election in history, except that the opposition didn't understand that the president was all over this. Now, Steve Piesnak, I'm a fan of his, and I think he's absolutely right when he talks about a watermark. In fact, I have a 3-dimensional thing here on the back of my phone. This is a body-aligned 5G thing, but this is 3-dimensional, even though it looks like a flat wafer. And what I'm reading and being told is that every ballot could be tracked by the National Security Agency, but this is even cooler. Every cell phone in the vicinity of every ballot could be tracked. Wow. Now, I've posted at Phi Beta Iota pictures of the White House with all of the cell phones showing, okay? So once you do that, essentially what that means is you can identify by name everybody who was associated with ballot fraud.
Wow.
It's done. It's game, set, and match. And what we're doing now, I think, is going through a WrestleMania drama that is the world's most interesting public education commercial going into the next term.
Well, speaking of tracing and the phone situation, I guess you've noticed a little bit how everyone is suddenly like doing major more lockdowns with all this C stuff going on. And what is your thought? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I wrote the original article calling this a fake pandemic, and that's at tinyurl.com/Steele-Wuhan. First off, 5G is the threat. There is no real virus, it's the flu. But 5G, radiation sickness, if you go to Johns Hopkins Medical, you'll see that radiation sickness presents identically with the flu. And we've had entire airlines quarantined in the last 3 years because they thought people all had the flu. And in fact, it was the satellites not being properly modulated. And so excessive radiation was coming down onto the airplanes, and everybody was showing symptoms of radiation sickness. My bottom line is, I think that the president has allowed the Antifa and BLM riots and the limited violence, and in fact, the lockdowns may even be part of the WrestleMania script, okay? Because you have to be a really, really stupid governor to lock down a state at this point, because what you're asking for is basically a revolution. Now, Denmark was going to try.
Yeah.
And people came out banging pots. Well, the next step up from banging pots is shooting guns. Okay. So Denmark got it. There will be no mandatory vaccine. And I anticipate a ceremonial national mask burning. Let me tell you what I've tried to communicate to the White House that I'm not sure has gotten through. The president has the authority under the Interstate Commerce Clause to forbid masks as interference with interstate commerce. Every single store, every single location that has anything at all that's being traded on an interstate basis appears to fall under presidential authority. The science is absolutely there.
Yep.
Less than 1% have died. Young people are not dying. Almost everyone that has died from underlying preconditions. I mean, I think the CDC has admitted that fewer than 10,000 people, it might be as few as 6,000 people, have actually died from COVID. So this is a mass insanity moment. And I've come to the conclusion that President Trump is using all of this to enrage and engage the public. And when I look at the idiot things that are being said by Trudeau and by Biden and by Kamala Harris, what I'm seeing is the designated loser in a WrestleMania drama known as the heel. And Matt Taibbi is the guy who gave me this insight in his book, Hate Inc. What I'm seeing is these people are all reading for a script that is intended to essentially pump up the public so that when Trump proves election fraud and when he proves that the media is criminally complicit, then he can take $100 trillion away from Wall Street and say to the public, I'm the guy that's taking $100 trillion away from Wall Street in criminal and civil forfeitures. And I tell that story on a website that costs $90,000. The tinyurl.com is /100-100-trillion. Wall Street has stolen $100 trillion in the last 10 years from Main Street and pension funds. Wall Street has also laundered $100 trillion from trafficking in children and money and so forth. So I'm working with Wes Christian, who I hope will appear on Lou Dobbs soon. And he's basically telling the president, Mr. President, you left money on the table. The president can, and this is really important, you don't need a trial. We have all of the evidence we need to do criminal and civil forfeiture. Now, this has been abused at the local level by local cops and the DEA and the FBI. They've gone in and confiscated homes and they've confiscated cars and airplanes and things like that. But at the strategic level, the president now has everything he needs to go to the partners of Goldman Sachs, who have been the leaders of this crime ring, as well as Merrill Lynch and JP Morgan and UBS and Credit Suisse and Deutsche Bank. He can go to all of them and basically say, here's the deal. You have $200 trillion in illicit wealth, which I can confiscate. I will let you keep half of it. The other half is coming back to the public treasury to do three things. Number one, pay off the national debt, $27 trillion. Number 2, a debt jubilee for students, elderly, and small business. And number 3, give every single American that wants to change jobs or get a job salary paid training
Wow.
into information technology or localized agriculture and manufacturing, or my personal favorite, open source everything engineering, which then becomes an export industry for the United States of America, because people overseas who are using children and water buffalo and stuff, they cannot afford a John Deere tractor at $250,000. Villages can afford a $25,000 tractor that they build themselves with open source everything engineering. So we're at the beginning of a huge turning point across the board, and it surprises me enormously. But I've written 3 books recently: Reinventing National Security, Reinventing Intelligence, and Reinventing Engineering. And to my great surprise, Reinventing Engineering is one of my top 5 books right now being bought, in smaller numbers than your book on miracles. But still, I'm pleased people are starting to notice that my ideas could potentially be valuable, not just for the US, but for the world. And that's after 30 years of being blocked by the CIA.
Yeah, and mention too about the book with having to do with pedophilia, if you don't mind.
Oh,
yeah.
Let me say first off that pedoempire.org provides the entire book for free online. It can be read in foreign languages, and it has a tag cloud that shows that the Mossad, the CIA, MI5, MI6 are central to trafficking in children. But this is what we've just published now. This is book 1, and this is book 2. And they're things of beauty. The 5 books together will be 2,500 pages, but we decided to go with a large book which has 12 font print, and then all of the endnotes are put down at the bottom. When the president is ready to play his final ace, this is the ace. This is what's going to educate the public, and I'm in negotiation right now to see if we can get this turned into a movie by the 4th of July of next year.
Wow. Well, and you just had a movie come out. You sent me a link.
Yeah.
What?
I wasn't expecting to end exactly the way I ended. Make the deal, motherfucker. But they drew it out of me. They ambushed me with a very clever question. What's your bottom line message? And I spontaneously came out. But I've also published the extracts from that movie at my YouTube channel and my BitChute channel. So people can find me at tinyurl.com/YouTube-unrig or BitChute-unrig. And of course, RobertDavidSteele.com. And by the way, it doesn't matter if YouTube closes my channel. I have all my videos lined up at RobertDavidSteele.com. I will never again be held to ransom by scum-sucking sacks of crap who really have no integrity.
Well, talking about the pedophile thing, you know, Carrie Cassidy.
You know, by the way, I'm not running for president, which is why I feel I could speak freely.
Well, she actually had a doctor that was talking about the how the kids and the adrenals and how it creates this, and how we're in this like bubble of kind of beta type energy to keep us in fight or flight. And he even brought up about how all of these blood donations are actually not even for hospitals and blood donations, but they're using that for the what's the word?
Adrenochrome.
Adrenochrome, because it's.
I don't think that's correct.
You don't think so?
I'll tell you why. Because adrenochrome comes from blood that has been adrenalized.
Correct.
The people giving blood as a donation, now maybe there's a way of infusing it with adrenaline later, but the easiest way I found to explain this is that the Chinese boil dogs to death. They torture the dogs, they boil them to death. And the reason they do that is so that the screaming in agony dog will adrenalize their blood, and then the meat tastes different. Now, Jim Stone came out with a tremendous expose of companies around the United States that are actually holding children in prison to basically torture them and produce adrenalized blood. I don't know if that's true or not, but there was some very interesting documentation. Now, I'm a fan of Peter Thiel's. I think he knocked it out of the park with PayPal. He totally screwed the pooch with Palantir, but PayPal is a thing of genius. And I would like to get PayPal to understand that microcash is the next big step. Like, I will not subscribe to the Washington Post, but I would be willing to pay 50 cents for a single Washington Post article on the fly. So bottom line here is Peter Thiel is known to be taking children's blood transfusions every single day. And that is perfectly legal. And the infusion of children's blood has been known to be an anti-aging device for a very, very long time. What is not legal is torturing a child in captivity to create adrenochrome. Now, Sasha Stone is telling me that adrenochrome can be flash frozen. There's a small possibility that they're torturing animals to create adrenochrome blood. And I don't know what the impact is of people ingesting adrenochrome that comes from animals. But the whole thing's a god-awful mess. And I'm honored. I don't make a penny from this. The author, Joaquim Hagopian, gets everything from Amazon, which I think is now up to about $1,000 a month, which is good, but it could be better. And he takes donations directly. What I am doing is giving the president the movie when he's ready.
Awesome.
The public, 5 years ago when I talked about this stuff, people looked at me like I was a lunatic. I hate being 40 years ahead of the pack because it's uncomfortable. But the reality is I know more than most people. And now I think the world is catching up in part. And I got to give credit to Alex Jones and others. The world is starting to realize that they're living a lie.
Yeah, I actually still run into quite a few people who think that is the whole China Lake thing and all the other stuff that's happened is just bogus. And that, I mean, we can do a whole show on that. But anyway, do you have any final words for everybody besides how to get you? But just as far as people's emotions, I know that your main emotion is pissed off, but for the other people who are actually—
No, I'm not pissed off. I'm very happy. This is my happy face. Okay.
I know, but there is a—
You don't want to see me pissed off.
But there is a pissed off as far as the justice.
Look, I would say to people, trust the plan and trust the people that made the plan. I was a huge skeptic of Q until about a year and a half ago. And then I started looking at past, present, future, and then I interviewed Martin Geddes. Mm-hmm. And if you have any doubts about Q, go find Martin Geddes and read his 10 essays on Q. Zuckerberg should be toasted in hell at some point, along with Jack Dorsey. Now, it's entirely possible they are actually secret allies of President Trump, or they're wearing ankle bracelets and they've made the deal. And their job is to piss us all off so that when we announce the open source agency and Web 3.0 and something you can't censor, people will be grateful. Right now, Parler and all these other things, Gab, they're all dead in the water because they're all isolated little pieces. There isn't a coherent ecology. It's not protected by encryption, data at rest encryption, and so forth. It's too easy to steal and manipulate from the cloud. So I've been told I might get funding to create Web 3.0 with the $10 million to bring together the key people, and then $250 million to flesh out the model and get it operational. And then if the president takes an interest, the Office of Management and Budget has already approved $2 billion a year for an open source agency. And this is what CIA has been fighting me on for 30 years. So this is I'm feeling pretty good, actually.
Awesome. Okay. Well, you guys, I'm going to put all of his links and your main website. So it goes to all of those things where you're going to be able to catch up with everything he's blogging, all his videos, all his social media, everything. I mean, he's very active in all of these things. So please do follow him and go to his website. Yes.
Let me get one last word, people. You can get this hat at any embroidery store. Just go pick out the hat you like and tell them you want #unrig about this. And you can buy the pilot, the Patriot wings at Amazon under the flag pin. So let me make my final point.
Yes.
I love Donald Trump. I'm voting for Donald Trump. I would like to work for Donald Trump. But at the end of the day, I'm about hashtag unrig beyond Trump and beyond Sanders. People, not parties, authentic, inclusive, and truthful. I want to get to where it doesn't matter whether Donald Trump is president or not, the people are in charge.
Yes, and that's what unrig is about. If you haven't looked into it, guys, it's about unrigging the systems that are not working and making justice type truth, open, new platforms and new ideas, new setups, new engineer. I mean, he goes into even water and using malls to create communities of different. You guys really go to his website and check out what he's talking about, because he's got big ideas. They're very, very good ideas.
Let me stress that my big ideas are built on the backs of the 2,000 plus nonfiction authors that I've reviewed.
He's a big reader too. That's another thing. So he's
no,
always
my point is to give credit where it's due. I am an integrator. I connect dots to dots, dots to people, and people to people. And that's my gift. Others smarter than me are figuring out agriculture and water and poverty and all this stuff. I just know how to find them. And that's not something CIA wants to do.
Awesome. Yeah, I know you've given me a few book referrals that I've jumped into, and it's been very helpful. So I appreciate you so much. And I appreciate all your videos and what you're doing, and your website, all your resources, your interviews that you're doing. And I love your little short ones when you just pop in and say the something really meaty and cool and powerful, and then you're like, bye, I'm out of here. So keep on doing that. Yes.
Well, okay. God bless you, and send me all that good energy.
Yes, I'll continue to be praying and lifting you guys all up too. And you guys stay tuned and follow me as well. I have Charlie Ward on later this week, Dr. Q, Jason Q. I have James Redfield. It's going to be a busy week. So definitely follow, go to my website, swiftfire.org, and get my free newsletter and blog where I'm putting out videos as well. And that way, if whatever happens, we can still stay connected. But see you. I'll definitely be in touch so we can catch up again with any new updates. And I appreciate you so much.
Well, I appreciate you. Thanks for the time. Bye-bye.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye.